Hey everybody, Dimitri here with Serg Supply, and today we're talking about electrical safety. Let's dig right in. Before we begin, as with any safety or electrical video, I have to give you some background information. Number one, I'm not an electrician. I do not pretend to be an electrician. I'm not bonded. I'm not certified. I'm nothing. I'm just an idiot who builds vans and got some experience along the way. And I listen to some pretty smart people. So a lot of this video is just me passing down things I've learned, observed down the road. So have some grace. Number two, the three things that I'm going to outline in this video are three of the most common causes of fires that I see in vans or have heard of or run across, or maybe 3 points of exposure that I think everybody should be aware of. And last but not least, we're going to go over three very simple tools you can purchase for relatively cheap that can prevent your van, whether it be a DIY or a pre-purchased van, from ever going up in smoke on the side of the road. Now, when I mean something is unsafe, that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be on fire. It's like an oven. If you put cookies in the oven for just 2 seconds at 500 degrees, it may not burst in flames and burn your house down. However, if you leave them in there long enough, things can get a little squirrely over time. So you may just have everything right, everything checked except one little box, and it may not catch on fire right away, but maybe 6 months, a year down the road, things can get a little bit rough. Let me give you the first classic case of this happening, and that's going to be connection points. So you may buy the best wire in the world, the best Blue Sea fuse breaker, you name it, you got it, but if you use the wrong type of connection point, or if you just downrate that connection point in accident, you could have problems. And I've got a few connection points here to look at as a bit of an example. Let me pull this camera up for you guys and see if I can show you what I'm talking about. So, a little show and tell for you folks today. I've got a few of the most common connections that we use for DC power. These do not work for AC power, so please don't use them for AC power. But for DC power, the name of the game is really surface area on connection. So there's three basic types. There's going to be like a fork connector, which we see as, come on baby, focus, focus. There we go. This is the most common we see in van builds. It's okay. It does okay for like low amp, 12 volt stuff. It doesn't do so well for things like fridges, stoves, and things like that. The next place up from that, kind of in the rung, in the food chain, are going to be these guys here. We use these a lot more than we use forks because, realistically, our fork is only going to give us the surface area of those two prongs if they get all the way under there. And a lot of connection points, you don't get this flat slab area. You don't get that luxury of, come on, focus, do your thing, move out the way. There we go. That flat area doesn't always touch. It's a lot easier to get yourself one of these ring connectors where you have a lot more surface area touching. And if you have the flexibility and the luxury, you can also get these upsized to something even bigger. Come on, come on. Yeah, well, you know, we're doing what we can with what we have. But something like this for like a 5/16 stud isn't always realistic. And a lot of you folks aren't making your own Victron systems. You're buying pre-made electrical systems, in which case I'd like to move on to the next point. The next point of weakness is going to be that wire type. What kind of wire you're using, you know, how it's made. I have a plethora of videos talking about wiring and my suggestions, but it really boils down to a couple things. Number one, make sure the wire you're using is tinned. An example of that is actually, again, the focus probably won't want to play here, but the inside of this wire right here, this is from Ancor. If you're shopping wire, Ancor is the way we go. We love it. It's never failed us. That wire is nice and silver on the inside. The wire you want to avoid if you're wiring your van is stuff that's gold. Anything that's copper, try to stay away from it. Now, the exception is a lot of stuff you purchase might have copper wire in it, like your fridges and stuff, but they're rating those wires appropriately. You may not be. If you're curious on how we rate wires, there will be a link below, but we use something called the ABYC calculator. ABYC is like American Boat Yacht Something Standard. That's how we rate everything. It just allows you to put smaller wires that can carry more current because you're using the correct wires, and it allows you to do it in a way that's safe. So don't use Romex. Don't go to Home Depot, put stuff through that you put through your house. Vans move, they vibrate, and a lot of these appliances on vans are very, very demanding. So play it safe with the wiring. Again, if you're a DIYer out there and you're building your own system, we use Ancor for just about everything. If you need pre-made wiring kits, get in touch with us, but this is not going to be a shameless plug. Let's focus a little bit more. I mentioned in the beginning of the video, there are 3 simple tools you can purchase or pick up to make this part safer, make it easier for you. And that tool number 1 It's gonna be one of these guys. This is a thermal camera. Yes, these things can get expensive. The one I'm holding here only costs us about 140 bucks, but if you're already spending tens of thousands of dollars on a van, picking up one of these is not going to hurt you. You can see this baby's already reading my face here. This is really important. You can only get so much out of a multi-tool or a voltmeter and you know, your eyes. And I don't know about you, but I'm sketched out by electricity. I do not like touching hot wires, no matter how insulated they are. So I'm not going to do the old lick your finger and feel test. This is the way to go for us. And so this is a great way to walk through your electrical system and see hot spots. And the way it was explained to me is to think about electricity and conductivity and safety as like a game of heat. The insulation and the wire rating are fighting to keep that wire cool enough to pass as much current as it needs through it. And if you have weak spots, bad contacts, bad crimps, or poor connections, you're going to see them on this guy. They cannot hide. So I've done something very stupid today. I've set up a very simple test. Do not try this at home. This is really dumb. Please don't do it. But I have a water pump here. I've got a 12-volt power supply. I've got the properly rated wires, and then I've got a wire that is not properly rated, and we're going to catch all of it on camera so you can see real time what it looks like to catch improperly rated connections on the spot. Okay, here's my setup here, folks. I have a diaphragm pump. This thing is rated, I think, up to 15 amps, if I'm not mistaken, but it actually is all up. Yeah, a 15 amp max. So I have a 15 amp fuse in line in case it blows. I've got a Milwaukee 12-volt power source, some Wagos, and the only thing that's not connected is my hotline. And I also have my thermal camera set up here where I'm going to try to get you guys as good of a real-time shot of this happening as I possibly can, if the focus will cooperate. Goodness gracious. Anyway, first test, we're going to connect it with the properly rated 14 gauge wiring at the right fuse and everything. And we're going to watch the temp of that wire. Second test, I'm going to put this improperly rated cable, and we're just going to see what happens. Okay, if you've got your volume turned up all the way, please turn it down because this sounds like a dying animal. It is not pleasant. Here we are. You can see my hands here in the shot. I'm going to connect this cable, and we're just going to let it run for a minute or two. Here we go. Turns out plugging the hole does a decent job. Okay, so this camera, you may not be able to read those figures on the top there. But what they're telling us is maximum temp, the temperature at the center point. You see I'm holding this plug here now. And then it's also telling us the minimum temperature, which is kind of like the coldest temp on the outside. So right now everything's pretty good. Wire temperature's floating somewhere around, looks like 84 degrees. It's a little hotter where the sun is poking out in the frame, but yeah, about 84 degrees here. And now I'm gonna shut this monstrosity off here. Okay, test number 2 is ready. I'm going to hold this out of frame here a little bit. There you go. I've got my tiny cable connected. I have not connected ground yet. And we're going to connect this thing and see what happens on the thermal camera. So please excuse the noise. Here we go, folks. Okay. There we go. As you can see, this guy is getting a little bit toasty. I'm going to take my finger off the pump here so I can show you it relative to the other wires now. Obviously, I am not going to run that thing long enough to burn, but you can probably guess what happens to that little wire if you leave it running long enough. Fun fact, that's how like hot wire cutters work. They just have that resistance dialed in, but generally that's how it looks. Now, I said earlier, you may not notice something burning right away, but you could have connections weaken up, loosen up over time. And keep in mind, vans vibrate, they move a lot. So if anything is getting really, really hot, it's just not good long term. Now, temperature wise, if anything's over 100, it's reason to go back and look at it. Something's up. If it's under 100 degrees Fahrenheit, when it's got some pretty good ambient temp, maybe don't worry so much on it. Wires do get warm when they run, but they shouldn't get hot. And that's the point of this. Now, lucky for you folks, I've got another fun little show and tell. So we have a Nomadic X3 48 volt air conditioner, and we have two 12 to 48 volt, I think they're called Orion converters from DC-DC chargers, I'm sorry, from Victron. I've got them installed in series right now. And the thing is, I need 3. I have 2 right now. I thought I could get away with 2. I need 3. And I learned this with that thermal camera, and I'm gonna do a little live test to show you how I learned it. Now, the thing is, this thing will still run. It's gonna run just fine, but I like to be on the safe side, so we're gonna pay the extra money, add the third one. And the thing with ACs is that I believe a lot of folks just purchase an air conditioner with any power unit and think you can just plug it in, and because the AC is running, it's gonna keep the van cool, and that might be technically true, but whatever's powering that AC is gonna get really damn hot. And today I'll show you what that looks like. So ventilation is gonna be a point to talk about later in the video. Let me show you quickly how it's looking in here. It's a bit of a mess because I've been ripping things apart, but here they are, the Orion TR12488 converters. Now I have confirmed that all of the wiring lengths going in and out are identical. None of these wires are longer than the other, and everything, everything's wired properly. We've gone over it with the engineers, but you're gonna see real time how this looks on the camera. So check this out. I'm looking into the enclosure right now. Let me pull you up here. It's really not that hot. I'm looking at 84 degrees on the bottom unit and 83 degrees on the top unit. It's pretty kosher. So now we're gonna fire the air conditioning unit on. I'm gonna try to set this up so you guys can just watch this real time and see this thing cook a little bit. Okay, excuse the shakiness, but here we are. This thing is booting up now. Bear with me. You may be able to hear the AC firing up in the back here. And it's gonna pull current from one of these more than the other, and only time is gonna tell us which one is gonna run hotter. But I'm gonna let this baby run for a few minutes, and I'm gonna take you guys back and show you what's going on. All right, so here, apologize for the focus in advance. There's unit number 1, and there's unit number 2. And you can see very clearly, even on the cabling, one of them is getting a little more juice than the other one. And this, folks, is a classic example of why this thermal camera would do you a lot of good. Now, this could likely be solved by just getting better ventilation inside this enclosure, because these heat sinks get nice and toasty, and I currently have 0 cold air passing over them. So that may be part of the cause, but once we add the third one, that'll fix our problems. In the meantime, this is a great way to showcase the use of this thermal camera and how it might save your build. So that thermal camera obviously gets most of the praise here. I think it's a far more useful tool for people who are visual like myself to see electricity and current live and understand what's going on, what's moving where. Tool number 2, this is gonna be short because this one is kind of common sense for everybody out there. That's going to be a voltmeter. Obviously, sometimes if you're fortunate, you can isolate things and shut them down. Sometimes you don't have that flexibility. And this thing is really neat in the way that you can check what's hot, what's not, but you can also check continuity. And by that, I mean, you can have a cable running through your wall. You have no idea which one it is, what it goes to, and you can put one of these on each end of the cable, and it will have some resistance, and it'll tell you, yeah, this is the same cable. We use it as builders all the time. It's very helpful. If you have an amp clamp, that's also really great and might replace some of what the thermal camera is doing, but let's move right into tool number 3. This is probably the cheapest of them all. This guy right here, it's a GFCI tester. We put this in every single outlet for every build we've ever done and every build we ever work on. The simple truth of 110 outlets is they can be dangerous. And vans, unlike houses, move and they vibrate, and you may very well have wired this thing right the first time or purchased your van from a professional who connected everything as they should, but something vibrated, loosened up, or maybe you caught a cable pulling a backpack out and something just came out. And at that case, you want to avoid having like an open ground, an open neutral, or just a hot cable touching something it doesn't need to. And this thing will tell you exactly what's going on, and you can test it by initiating a ground fault and resetting or tripping or whatever have you. I'm going to do this real quick live with you. I'm going to find an outlet and we're going to flip that baby off, show you how it works. Okay, so here's my GFCI. I'm assuming it's wired correctly. And here's a bit of a legend here that tells you all the different faults you might have. So correct is 2 yellow lights and 1 light that's not on. That's what we're aiming for. Let's go ahead and plug this guy in. There we go. So we've got 2 yellow lights. That's fantastic. Cool thing about this tool is you can press this button here, and I've just created a fault. My GFCI worked properly. If you don't have GFCIs, this is a way you can test out your breakers to make sure everything's kosher there. But now that my fault test is successful, I can reset this GFCI and bam, there you go. I've got my little light. So I'm actually going to take this apart and I'm going to replicate a fault that is common for vans, and maybe it's something you can catch. Figured I could talk to you guys a little bit while I take this outlet out of here, and if I do get zapped live on video, it'd make for a pretty funny video. But along the lines of this fault tester, I would highly recommend anybody, whether you are building your own van, you finished building your van, or you purchased a van from a professional, is to have one of these in your vehicle and use it every single time you go out. As an owner of a vehicle, especially if you have kids or a spouse that's coming with you, it's your responsibility to make sure everything here is safe. Whether or not somebody else built the van is besides the point. Blame happens in court. It's your job to make sure you don't get there, keep your stuff safe. So just take one of these and take 15 seconds to quickly walk through your van, shove it in every single hole you can, and make sure everything is up to date, everything is kosher. Because what you don't want to do is create an open ground or an open neutral or something like that and risk hurting yourself or one of your kids or just somebody else who can touch the wrong piece of metal, get themselves hurt, and then blame everything on you. Now this is currently hot. Yeah, it's kind of sketchy. So again, if I get zapped, haha. Now it's only 110, I'm not gonna die, but I am a wuss. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna disconnect one of these lines. Now I think I'm going to disconnect the neutral. It really doesn't matter which one for this test, but just for giggles, I'm gonna make it happen. Now one of these is line and one of these is load. We have another outlet daisy chained off of it, so I just wanna make sure I'm getting the line. We're getting, yeah, there we go, line and not the load. Okay, so the bottom one is the one I wanna work on here. And I was kidding earlier, I'm not gonna work on this while it's live. I'm gonna quickly shut off my breakers. Bear with me, folks. All right, breakers are shut off. Let's just test this with our, there you go, nothing is there. And you know what? You can also take your voltmeter if you really wanted to and put those prongs on that bad boy. If you see 120 or 110 coming out, obviously you've got power, but I'm safe for now. Let's remove our neutral. And the reason why I'm saying this is common is like, this is something that could just vibrate loose over time in your van if it's not tightened down properly. And it could be very dangerous if it's touching the wrong piece of metal or the wrong, other cable. You might even be able to create some arcing or something, God forbid. So I've got that neutral out. It's not connected to anything. I'm gonna go turn these breakers back on real quick. Okay, so for all intents and purposes, you think that you're about to go on a nice, fun van trip with your wife and kids and your outlets are all working really well and you didn't test this thing out and now none of your outlets work. Boo-hoo. But if you're smart and you got one of these, you could quickly, right before your trip, just plug one of these bad boys in and then you get yourself a fault. Let me pull you and show you what it looks like. All right, so here we are. There is our open neutral. I'm gonna try not to touch it. And here are our two lights. We've got a red light and a yellow light. And this thing tells me I've got a hot/ground rev. And so the cool thing about this, it's going to tell you exactly what you did wrong and tell you what's, going down here. So if this is one of the outlets that I have down the chain, again, like I have this daisy chain to another outlet underneath the same breaker, I can plug this into that outlet and it'll show me hopefully the same thing. And this at least gives you an idea on what to fix. Or if you just don't have time to fix it, shut off the breaker and don't use this outlet. So let's get this thing repaired, put back together, test it one more time. Well, there you are, folks. We are back to normal. Everything works great. And we can run around and test all of the other outlets. And this concludes tool 3 of 3 that I think is a necessity to keep in your van at all times. Now we talked about different connectors earlier in the video and I talked about lugs and spades and maybe a few of the ones that I didn't really touch base on yet and a couple that I really want to show you that we use a lot. Number one are these Wagos. These are our go-to for anything 12 volt. Now on the side here it says it's rated for 450 volts up to 32 amps. So things for like fans, lights, this does the job. We try to avoid it for higher DC stuff, excuse me. But yeah, lights, fans, Wagos make things really easy to disconnect, reconnect. And also makes troubleshooting way easier down the road. Now for people who are building their own power systems, whether it be kind of Victron, Dragonfly, Red Arc, what name you, you're gonna be putting a lot of wires in holes and tightening lugs onto them. And the last connector that's really important to talk about here are going to be these guys. These are actually ferrules. They come in kits on Amazon. They're very, very affordable, and they usually come with one of these guys. It's just a ferrule crimper. You shove the wire inside the crimper. This ferrule's too big. Let me grab a smaller one for you. You shove the wire with the ferrule in the crimper, and then when you squeeze this, it crushes it. And it creates this nice, beautiful, rectangular, lug-ready, come on baby, focus, focus. Lug-ready connection, which will perform way better than just raw wire. You think about it, if you have a clamp coming down from two sides with pressure in the center, are you going to get better connection from a bunch of wire strands that are splayed out and pushed around the clamp? Or are you going to get better wire connection from something that's got maximum surface area that's crushed on all sides? So if you're putting wires in anything, any terminals, DIN rails, things like that, get yourself this ferrule connector kit. It's probably 15 bucks on Amazon. It'll cost you a few dollars here, but it might save your van in the long run. All right, folks, that sums up a few of my safety tips when it comes to electrical and not burning your van down. Just to recap a few things, the three main causes that we see of fires, or maybe not fires, but electrical hazards in a van include using underrated wires, using the wrong types of connectors, and or just things getting loose over time. And those three tools that you can pick up today at a very low cost to ensure that your van's going to hit the road safely are the GFCI tester is number one, a thermal camera, if you have the ability to buy one, is number two, and a very simple voltmeter is number three. So I hope you found something useful in this video. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Either way, I appreciate you watching to the end. Be safe, have fun, safe travels, and happy building.